Well, guys, it is now time for my Week 13 picks of the 2024 NFL season. As last week I went 7-6. Oh, just horrible, absolutely horrible and disgusting week, especially in the 1 p.m. games. And of course, here as the playoff stands and regular season stands at the season end of the day. In the AFC, it's the Chiefs with the bye, with Broncos at Bills, Chargers at Steelers, and Ravens at Texans. And the NFC, it's Lions with the bye, with Commanders at Eagles, Packers at Seahawks, and Vikings at Falcons. And my Super Bowl prediction is the Lions over the Bills. Alright, of course, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. That's why I had to do this picks today. As we start with, of course, our Thanksgiving picks. As it starts off with the Bears at Lions. As the Bears won the last one. The Lions haven't beaten them since 2023. And the Bears haven't won in Detroit since 2021. As the Lions they wouldn't match or clinch. No, they actually can clinch a playoff spot if they I had to look up the scenario again. They actually can clinch a playoff spot this week. They have to win, and a whole bunch of teams have to lose and tie and all, but they could potentially get a playoff spot coming up. So the Lions, of course, smacked around the Colts as they have the longest win streak in the league, continuing on still, as they have one of the best offense in the league, and everything's just going right for them at the moment. We'll see if they can keep that momentum up. Meanwhile, the Bears, hard-fought game, but they couldn't beat the Vikings in the end, as they've now lost 5 in a row, as they're getting near one of the worst losing streaks in the league now. The division's running away from them, not looking good in that regard. But I'm going to pick the Lions for this one, but something tells me I think the Bears are going to put up a good fight for it. Alright, then after that, it's the Giants at the Cowboys. As the Cowboys won the last 7, the Giants haven't beaten them since 2020, and they haven't won in Arlington since 2016. And the Giants, if they lose and the Commanders win, they'll be eliminated. No, actually, if they lose or the Commanders win, they'll be eliminated from the playoffs. So they could be the first team out, potentially. So, anyways, the Giants got their asses kicked. That's right, they got their asses kicked by the Buccaneers this last week. And they released, not only did they, they did mention they benched Daniel Jones last month, but now they released him. But of course, nothing else to say about the Giants. They have one of the worst losing streaks in the league. They're just terrible and all that. Meanwhile, the Cowboys beat the Redskins in one of the strangest what the fuck games I've ever seen, especially in the fourth quarter. That was weird and wild. And in their 5-game losing streak. And of course, I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win this one. And then we get to Sunday night, a big one actually, probably the biggest one of the 3, as it's the Dolphins at the Packers for the first time since 2018. As the Packers won the last 3, the Dolphins haven't beaten them since 2010, as the Packers try to get their second straight win season. The Dolphins, meanwhile, have won 3 in a row now after they smoked the Patriots, and they're now starting to look like, honestly, maybe even better than they did last year, because they have an elite defense. Their offensive stats don't look good, but that's because the first several weeks of the year really fucked them over. So now they're starting to recover and look really good. Meanwhile, the Packers, of course, whoever they play won't come to my head now all of a sudden. But, there we go. They smashed the 49ers, as they've now won, 4 in a row now. Looking really good as well. Although Love is still being very inconsistent. So, really needs to turn around, because not looking really good in that regard. So, man, who would I pick to win this one? Because this is a tough game, and both teams badly need to win, especially the Dolphins, because if they lose and the Bills win, they're eliminated from getting the AFC East. This is their last chance to clinch the division still, potentially. And, oh boy, thinking about it, this might be a bold pick, but I think I'm going to pick the Dolphins for this one. I'm trusting Tua a lot more lately than I am Love, because he's being so inconsistent. Alright, so then after that we get to our Black Friday game, as it's the Raiders at the Chiefs, as the Chiefs won. I don't know why I didn't put that in. The Chiefs did win this year, that's right, because they won earlier. I don't know why I didn't put the 1 in. But the Chiefs won the last one. The Raiders haven't beaten them since 2023. And the Chiefs haven't won at home against them since 2022. As the Raiders, if they lose, and if they lose, and the Chargers, I think, win, they'll be eliminated from the playoffs. As the Chiefs, are trying to keep ahead of the Bills for the division, because if they lose and the Bills win, the Bills take over the number 1 seed. So the Raiders, of course, had a hard-fought game, but they couldn't beat the Broncos in the end, as they've now lost 7 in a row. They once again also have like one of the longest losing streaks in the league. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, they actually had trouble beating the Panthers. Panthers played a really good game against them, but in the end, the Chiefs got in the end. Mahomes played good, as they're going to need it if they want to have any good chance of repeat, as they're on the verge of repeating their record from last year. And yeah, I'm going to pick the Chiefs for that. But remember, the Raiders almost did. I mean, no, they did beat the Chiefs last year on Christmas when they visited them. So anything can happen. All right, then we get to the 1 p.m. games, as it starts off a big outer conference matchup, as it's the Chargers at the Falcons. As the Chargers won the last 3, the Falcons haven't beaten them since 2012, and they haven't beaten the Chargers at home since 2004. As the Chargers got kind of spanked by the Ravens. I was not expecting that, as they lost to end their 4-game winning streak. And they need to win to keep ahead of the Broncos too. Meanwhile, the Falcons, they came off their bye after they got completely obliterated by the Broncos recently. They now lost 2 in a row and not looking really good. They better be thanking the fact that they swept the Bucs, because if it wasn't for that, no boy, they could be in big trouble coming up. The Falcons have a lot of holes now all of a sudden with them. They're so inconsistent. And I am still going to pick the Chargers for this one. But I guess I can't be surprised if maybe the Falcons get it. Alright, then after that, it's the Steelers at the Bengals. As the Steelers won the last 2, the Bengals haven't beaten them since 2022. And they haven't won home against them since 2021. So the Steelers are trying to get their, I think it's 5th straight win season coming up, after they lost to the Browns on Thursday night. Oh my God, what a beautiful game that was with all the snow. Snow games are always the beautifulest games ever. Insane fun that was. And put up a good fight, but they couldn't get the job done. Meanwhile, the Bengals are coming off their bye after they lost to the Chargers 2 weeks ago, where they were getting the shit destroyed on them early on. Then they made the massive comeback, but their defense completely shat the bed again to let the Chargers get the win in the end. As the Bengals keep blowing their chances to try and recover, because they have an offense that can get them a win, but their defense just keeps shitting the bed and all that. And I just don't really trust their defense enough that I'm going to pick the Steelers for this one, especially since I know the Steelers' history when they visit the Bengals. It's not good for the Bengals. All right, then it's the Texans at the Jaguars. As the Texans won the last one, the Jaguars haven't beaten them since 2023, and they haven't won at home against them since 2017. As the Jaguars, if they lose and the Chargers and Broncos both win, they'll be eliminated. And of course, they'll also be eliminated from winning the division too if they lose, since the Texans will have swept them and have the better record now. Alright, so the Texans, of course, last week played horrible once again, and they lost to the Titans in a comedic game where they kept screwing themselves over, as once again they're showing, like I thought they were. I thought they were going to be a playoff team, but I did not think they were contending yet to take on the best of the AFC, as they so far have completely fell off. 5-1, and now they've gone 7-5. They've gone 1-4 since, and Stroud is playing terrible, not looking good whatsoever. Jaguars, meanwhile, came off their bye after they got completely obliterated by the Lions, as they have like one of the worst AFC. They're like the worst team stat-wise in every single regard. The bye did not help them whatsoever. And maybe Lawrence will be back this week? I don't know. But in the end, I think I'm going to pick the Texans still for this one. But hey, the Texans are in a free fall. Maybe the Jaguars can pull off an upset. Alright, then we get to a big NFC matchup, as it's the Cardinals at the Vikings for the first time. I think first time since 2022. As the Vikings won the last one, the Cardinals haven't beaten them since 2021. And they haven't won in Minneapolis since 1977. So the Cardinals, of course, lost to the Seahawks, where they blew a chance at getting the division lead. That sucks for them, but they're still hanging in there for the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Vikings, looking up, oh yeah, that's right, they beat the Bears barely, as Sam Darnold once again playing really good and all that. The Vikings have won 4 in a row now, and somehow still defying the odds of how they're still winning. It is insane and all that. Should be a competitive game, but I'm going to pick the Vikings for this one. Alright, then after that, it is the Colts at the Patriots for the 3rd year in a row. This time not in Germany like last year. As the Colts won the last one, the Patriots haven't beaten them since 2022. So the Patriots, if they lose and the Broncos and Chargers win, they'll be eliminated from the playoffs. So they need this win badly. The Colts, of course, they got spanked by the Lions, but of course, I guess I can't be too surprised because after all, it was the Lions, although I thought they would put up a little bit more effort. Meanwhile, the Patriots got obliterated by the Dolphins, and Drake May's actual game. He was kind of mid in the end as they got swept by the Dolphins. As this game would be interesting, seeing how if May can still keeps playing really good. But, and of course, remember last year's game was too close in Germany, but I still am going to pick the Colts for this one. But I guess I won't be surprised if the Patriots get it. And then it's the Seahawks at the Jets for the first time since 2016. As the Seahawks won the last 5, the Jets haven't beaten them since 2004. As the Jets are trying to avoid, their 9th straight losing season. And the Jets, no, I think the Jets, Jets can still be in regardless of what happens. So, the Seahawks, they somehow defy the odds. They've now won 2 in a row. More importantly, they beat 2 NFC West teams, which is important for tiebreakers, as they beat the Cardinals, as they now lead the division once again. Meanwhile, the Jets came off their bye after they had a hard-fought game, but they blew it in the end against the Colts 2 weeks ago. Nothing's going right for them, of course. And honestly, I don't really trust either team. I really don't trust either one of them to get it. But I think if I'm forced to, I think I'll pick the Seahawks for this one, but I don't feel very comfortable with it. Alright, then after that, it's the Titans at the Commanders for the first time since 2022. As the Titans won the last 2, the Commanders haven't beaten them since 2014. As the Titans are trying to avoid their 3rd straight losing season. So, meanwhile, the Titans, of course, they beat the Texans in a very impressive comedic error-full game as the Texans kept shooting themselves in the foot. So Titans end their losing streak, trying to hold on for dear life to avoid getting eliminated. Meanwhile, the Commanders, oh boy, they've now lost 3 in a row, and they did not play good against the Cowboys. The fact that they even made a comeback multiple times but still blew in the end because they kept screwing up is an impressive feat. But starting to look bad for them to be in the playoff race right now. They're starting to look bad. But I'm still going to pick the Commanders for this one. And then we get to the 4 p.m. games. It starts off with the Buccaneers at Panthers. As the Buccaneers won the last 3, the Panthers haven't beaten them since 2022. As the Panthers try to avoid, their 7th or 8th straight losing season. So the Buccaneers completely destroyed the Giants. Strangely enough, though, they destroyed him without Baker really doing anything. He only had 1 touchdown. They destroyed him in every other way, though. My goodness, is they're 1 win away from getting back to 500. Meanwhile, the Panthers had a hard-fought game these last few weeks. The Panthers have been playing better, but they just couldn't get the job done against the Chiefs, as they still have one of the worst. They're one of the worst teams in the league still. But yeah, I'm gonna pick the Buccaneers for this one, but I don't think I would be surprised if the Panthers got it. And then still a big NFC game despite the record, as it's the Rams at the Saints for the first time since 2022. As the Rams won the last one, the Saints haven't beaten them since 2022, and the Rams haven't won in New Orleans since 2007. As the Rams got spanked by the Eagles, they're trying to get back at 500. Meanwhile, the Saints, coming off their bye after they beat the Browns and spanked them 2 weeks ago, as they now won 2 in a row after getting rid of Dennis Allen. Maybe it was him that was the problem. As their Saints are starting to maybe look like they're making a comeback potentially. It's going to be tough, though, especially since they got swept by the... No, they beat the Falcons, right, so they have it split and all that. It's going to be a tough comeback for them, how far they are. But hey, the Falcons are free falling, so anything can go. But man, this is another tough one. Saints starting to feel like they're having the momentum come back, but the Rams, I still feel like they're better and all that. They're just inconsistent. Oh boy, this is a tough one. I think, though, I'll probably pick the Rams for this one, but I won't be surprised if the Saints get it. I don't feel comfortable with this pick either. And then we get to a huge out-of-conference matchup, as it's the Eagles at the Ravens for the first time since 2016. As the Ravens won the last 2, the Eagles haven't beaten them since 2012, and they've never won in Baltimore. They did tie in 1997, though. So, the Eagles have one of the longest streaks in the league. They've won 7 in a row, got another win season, and trying to get to 10 wins once again, after they spanked the Rams, as their defense is now looking elite, unlike last year. Their offense is still looking a little concerning with Jalen Hurts not passing a lot, but everything else is looking really good. Meanwhile, the Ravens had a huge needed victory against the Chargers. They really needed that because they have a gauntlet coming up, so they really could not afford to lose that game, as they have one of the league's #1 offense in every single category again, but their defense is still terrible in that regard. Oh boy, this is gonna be insane. It could go either way. But right now, I think I trust the Eagles more, so I'm going to pick them. But hey, the Ravens did put up a good fight against the Chargers. No, they spanked them. So who knows? Maybe the Eagles will get wrecked by the Ravens. And then we get to Sunday night, which is still a big matchup despite the record, as it's the 49ers at the Bills for the first time since 2016. As the Bills won the last two, the 49ers haven't beaten them since they haven't beaten them since 2012. Got fixed that. And the 49ers haven't won in Buffalo since 2008. And the Bills, if they win and the Dolphins lose, they will not only clinch the playoff spot for the 6th year in a row, they'll clinch the AFC East for the 5th year in a row. They're the first team that can clinch the division coming up, so they really need this. So the 49ers, of course, got destroyed by the Packers. And also, I forgot to mention this too. I actually changed my pick last week for 49ers and Packers. I originally picked the 49ers, but then I found out that Brock Purdy wasn't going to play beforehand, so I immediately changed my pick to the Packers. So there you go. My record actually got better because I would have been 6-7 otherwise. But just so you all know, I picked the Packers once I found Purdy wasn't playing. Forgot to mention that earlier. Meanwhile, the 49ers, of course, got destroyed by the Packers with Purdy not playing. Who knows if he's going to even play, and I have to look it up again. I haven't heard anything about it since. Meanwhile, the Bills coming off their bye after they gave the Chiefs their first loss, and they pretty much spanked them too. Like I figured they do. The Bills can beat the Chiefs in the regular season, they just can't do it in the playoffs for some reason. And yeah, I think regardless if Purdy plays or not, I'm gonna pick the Bills for this one to keep their streak going. And then we get to Monday night, as it's the Browns at the Broncos for the 2nd year in a row. As the Broncos won the last one. The Browns haven't beaten them since 2021, and they haven't won in Denver since 2018. As the Browns, they need to win to avoid a losing season, as they're still trying to stay alive in the playoffs. After they beat the Steelers last week, they really needed that win, although their offense still one of the worst in the league. Meanwhile, the Broncos spanked the Raiders in a hard-fought game, as they've now on the verge of matching their record from last year. And the way the division, outside the Dolphins, the way the conferences line up, it's starting to look good. Maybe the Broncos can finally make the playoffs this year, as they have the 2nd longest drought in the league since 2015. As interesting game, but I'm going to pick the Broncos for this one. Alright, so those are my picks for Week 13. I cannot wait for the Thanksgiving games coming up tomorrow and all that. So, of course, my picks are the Lions beating the Bears, the Cowboys beating the Giants, the Packers beating the Dolphins, the Chiefs beating the Raiders, the Chargers beating the Falcons, the Steelers beating the Bengals, the Texans beating the Jaguars, the Vikings beating the Cardinals, the Colts beating the Patriots, the Seahawks beating the Jets, the Commanders beating the Titans, the Buccaneers beating the Panthers, the Rams beating the Saints, the Eagles beating the Ravens, the Bills over the 49ers, and the Broncos over the Browns. Alright, so see you all next month when we go back to going to Thursday for my Week 14 picks.